Sairam. Welcome to Sri Sathya Sai Loka Seva Gurukulam video session. In today's class, we are doing a recap like the stages of human development from the Stone Age time to the period of development where we are having the remote system and we will be using with the remote we are controlling the system. So just understand how human being when we started in the Stone Age period were using stone as the tools for killing the animals, for hunting, to fill the stomach. So that time they were food gatherers. How man has evolved from that stage or the stages of human development we are discussing today in this topic. So from Stone Age to the age of development where human beings, how we have evolved, how we have made the changes, accepted the changes, all those changes we will be discussing today. Stages of human development. So in the beginning we have learned human beings as hunters. That period it is called as the primitive period. It is also the prehistoric time. We don't have written records, but from the studies, from the archaeological remains, from the artifacts, we are able to connect to history. Many clues that have been provided to us by archaeology have helped us to reconstruct our prehistory. So by the archaeological sources we are able to connect it to our past. So this period it is called as the primitive period. This type of life is called as primitive because people depended on nature for the livelihood. So mainly their life it was depending upon nature. They used to hunt animals. So initially they were food gatherers. These early human beings began life as hunters, preying upon beasts, birds, fish and insects for food just as wild animals in the jungle do. So our life, human beings' life, it was similar to wild animals. They used to hunt other animals and have it. Similar to that, we human beings, we used to hunt animals, we used to have food. So we were food gatherers. They lived only as hunters for hundreds of thousands of years. So it was a longer period. This hunting and having food and having the nomadic life. Once when the stomach is full, then they will be moving to other areas in search of food. So they had the nomadic life. This stage in history was called as the Stone Age. So you have already learned, we have discussed about this. Human beings, we started using stone tools, different types of stone tools, and in this Stone Age itself it is divided into 3 different periods. Do you remember? Yes, Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic age. This period was also marked by tending of domesticated animals. So as you know, the first animal tamed by man, that is dog. So human beings, we even started domesticating animals from food gatherers. Even slowly man became food producers. So initial stage they started domesticating animals, they started training animals and having food from the animals. They gave people an assured food supply and also some new food items like milk, butter and cheese. Think that they owned a cow, so from the cow they started getting milk, butter and cheese. So it was more relaxed compared to the food gatherers. They used to get directly having one domesticated animal, they will be getting milk, butter and cheese. For the people, life is much more secure now than it had been when they were hunters. As I told, life it was more secured and more comfortable. Besides, tending of animals was much lighter work than hunting. So, when they started taming animals, it became more easy for them rather than going and hunting animals, mainly for food. People had leisure to think about other matters. See, when they started domesticating animals, when they started getting food directly from the domesticated animals, they got more time. So, they had leisure time, and see, the people had leisure to think about other matters. They started thinking about other things. But they still had to live like nomads, moving from one place to another in search of food. Here, just understand, see, one land they will be clearing, they will be cultivating for some period. Mainly, it was on the banks of rivers. We have discussed, like accidentally they came across agriculture and they started cultivation. So, once that land, maybe animals will be coming and destroying the fields and all, and once the cultivation is over, they will be moving to another field for cultivation. They had to look for new pastures for their cattle when the previous ones became bare, eaten up by the animals. That means they started searching for pasture lands where the grass will be available for their cattle. So, they had to look for new pastures for their cattle when the previous one became bare, eaten up by the animals. When these suppose think that they were having lots of cows, they domesticated cows, and these cows will be going and eating those grasses and all, and the land became barren. So, they will be moving to another place in search of food with their domesticated animals. Is it clear with the first stage, that is hunting? We are discussing about different stages of human development, and in the first stage we are discussing as in the first stage we have learned about hunters. As the life progress, second stage it is village life. As the term suggests, when man has started the village life, when they had settled life, right? So, here with the advent of agriculture came the opportunity for settled life. Once human beings, when we were familiar about agriculture, cultivation, irrigation and all, they started living in one region. See, what will be the benefit if they settle down in one region? So, they will be living in a community, in a group. So, people discovered that they could sow seeds in the soil and make them grow into plants. So, they have understood one thing, that if they sow seeds and in the soil, it will grow as plants, and this stage human beings became food producers. This technique enabled them to grow their own food at one place. So, first stage, when as I told, they had one pasture. If it is dry and all, they will be moving with the domesticated animals to another area in search of pasture land. Here, just understand this village life, when we discuss, they started settled life. This technique enabled them to grow their own food at one place. So, they started cultivation. And we have already discussed, they were settling on the banks of rivers. Why? Because of the availability of water, and the land will be really fertile, good for cultivation. Now, they could have permanent settlements. So, they were having houses and all in the crude form, and which later took the shape of villages where civilization in the modern sense was born. That is how, when man became civilized, when man started living on the banks of rivers, they had then started the civilization, and this can also be termed as rural stage. So, this is the second stage which we have discussed of the human evolution or the human development. Here we have discussed about civilization. Now coming to the third stage, that is town life, or men, they started having urban life. So step by step there was improvement in the way they were living. So previous stage, village life, we have discussed, they started settled life. They became food producers. Here, what development it happened during the ancient stage, we are discussing it here. From rural life in villages and agriculture, human beings moved towards urbanization. So step by step, there were developments in their life. There was an immense growth in population. Here, just understand, already we have discussed about settled life, and rather than the small huts, having independent huts, they were having row houses here during this urbanization time, and having one common wall, and houses will be in rows where they will be living in groups. So just understand, as they were settled in one region, having their cultivation and all, another important change that has happened is the growth in population. So the population has increased. Human beings were no longer food gatherers. So from the stage of hunting, food gatherers, they have started settled life. Now they are no more food gatherers. They were now food producers. Did you understand the transition from the stage where human beings were food gatherers to food producers? Is it clear now? The groups of families became larger and societies were formed. As I told, the population had increased, so the group of families, it has increased, and also societies were formed. So man started living in a community, in a group. So society has been formed. See, these are the stages, how one by one human beings, how we have developed. Now there was no need for every family to work in the fields and produce their own food. Have you understood this? Here we are discussing, see, everyone in the family. Now there was no need for every family to work. So it was not required for every family to work in fields and produce their own food. So here slowly the work is being divided. Here just understand, maybe women and children will be sitting at home, and the male members will be going out for cultivation and all, and slowly the families, just understand that even it was not required for every family to go out in the field for work for the production of food. Those who were weavers. So the division it has formed, different occupations it had started by this period. Not only the food producers as having cultivation or agriculture as the main job, here just understand that there were other occupations like weaving, pottery making, carpenters and all other occupations it has started. So those who were experts in making pottery, they started making pottery, and carpenters were also there, and even the weavers were there who used to make clothes. So the division in job, different work, occupation has started in this stage, which is this stage of development, that is urban life or city life. Is it clear? There was a great improvement in their lives. So the life has changed. Here human beings, they became food producers. When they became food producers, they settled down in one place. As they settled down in one place, they had a social life, they had a society, and a family has formed, and group of people, they started living together, and different occupations like weaving, pottery making, carpentry and all different occupations were there in this stage, that is city life. Discovery of metals had led to the specialization in preparing crafts. We have discussed about the discovery of metals. Do you remember which is the first metal invented by men? Yes, copper. And later on, human beings, we came to know about bronze, copper plus tin, mixing together we got bronze. Then we have discussed about iron. Like that, one by one we were familiar with different metals. So what change it has brought in the life of we human beings? Just understand, discovery of metals had led to specialization. See, men who were familiar with metals, they became specialized in preparing the crafts. Some artisans had better skills than the others did. So here just understand, some people, they were skilled laborers. So they were skilled in making this metal ornaments and all, or other different pots. We have already discussed pots were having designs and all. So there were in this stage, you just understand that men, they have divided the work. It was not required for every family to go only for the cultivation. There were different occupations also, and those who were familiar with these metals, they were skilled, specialized laborers also. This led to the society's stratification into skilled and semi-skilled craftsmen depending on the skills they possessed. So just understand, those who were experts in using the metals or metal pots or metal ornaments and all, they were skilled laborers, and semi-skilled means they were not having all the qualities like skilled laborers, but somewhat they were familiar to know about those skills. So this division in occupation, it started in this stage, as one by one human beings, they had developed. By this time, metals like copper and bronze had been discovered. We have already discussed copper and bronze. We were familiar with this copper and bronze metals, and these were being used in producing articles essential for a comfortable life. So, metal weapons. Here, when they found this metal, they started making tools and weapons, and those tools, with that they started using for agriculture. And they have understood copper is not so strong. When they understood copper is not so strong, they have found a new metal called bronze, mixing copper and tin. And step by step, they have understood how this metal can be utilized. That made the life of the people more comfortable. See, it was easy for digging the land for cultivation, and it is easy for making weapons, which is long lasting, very sharp, and it was more comfortable rather than the stone tools. Human beings used these skills in making crafts like pottery, leather work, and masonry. Just understand, see, pottery, as I told, skilled laborers and semi-skilled laborers, those who were expert in making pottery using this potter's wheel. We have discussed about the invention of wheel. So just understand, with the wheel they started making this pottery with some designs and all. Leather work, even they were familiar with the leather. When they killed the animals, they removed the skin of those animals and started making clothes. Not only that, even leather sack, bags, it is used for collecting the water for drinking. And it is being traced. See, it is given in Vedas also, like this leather sacks were used for keeping the water, for collecting the water. Just understand, leather workers were also there, and masonry. It is mainly for the construction of houses. I have discussed like initial stages when they started settled life, it was just huts. Here, even masonry, they were experts in making houses. People would get together at a convenient place to exchange their products. Did you understand this? I have told, see, occupation, men started dividing the work. There were people who used to make pots. There were metal experts. guilds were also there, and even there were masons also for making the houses. And there were people who were mainly living based on the agriculture. There were people who used to do the cultivation. So, different experts were there. Here, people would get together at a convenient place to exchange their products. So, it was not required for everyone to go and do the cultivation. So, how they will be able to fill their stomach in that case? So, here just understand, people, they started exchanging the goods. Think that I have a cow and I am having the milk, butter, ghee and all, and another person is going for cultivation. And we have understood that as the stages, developments happen, people, they were familiar even with the different cereals and even different varieties of wheat. So, people will be producing, think that one person is producing wheat and I am having a cow. So, I will be giving the milk, butter and all, and in place of that I will be collecting some wheat for my food, wheat as my food. So, similarly, this exchange of goods over goods, it has started during this period. It is called as barter system, right? So, even the farmers would come to sell the surplus grains. So, people, these farmers, excess grains, surplus grains means excess grains. After their usage, extra grains, they started to sell to another person. So, even the farmers would come to sell their surplus grains and buy other necessities. So, instead of food grains which they have cultivated, they used to give the surplus of these grains and started buying other materials from the other people. It can be a pot, it can be some other copper utensils or any other things. These activities happened at a central place. So, this exchanging of goods over goods and all, it happened in one central place where everyone will be meeting each other and they used to exchange goods over goods. Is it clear now? At this stage of civilization, see, when I use the term civilization, just understand, man became civilized. They started to adjust and live in groups rather than having nomadic life. So, at this stage of civilization, people looked for more than just satisfying their needs for food and engaged in other activities such as weaving, pottery and metal works. So, just understand, in this stage when man became civilized or men started having the civilization, they just to satisfy their own needs, they used to produce food and also they started engaged in other activities. They were having leisure time and there were other activities were also there like weaving, pottery making and also metal works. It was also the stage when iron was being discovered. We have discussed about this stage. By the invention of iron, it has changed the life of men. Even now we are familiar with this iron as a metal. So, just understand this iron, discovery of iron from the wooden wheels which they were having initially, from that stage they started using metal wheels. So, it has this discovery of iron has changed the life of man. Now, there arose a need for structure and categorization into smaller and specialized group. So, here just understand that there was a need to structure and categorize into small and specialized group. Different groups were formed here. Division of labor took place based on work performed by them. So, based on the work, different groups were formed. Some think that in this stage work started, there was a division of work, division of labor. So, the experts, the small group, those who were good or skilled in making clothes, they formed a group as weavers. Another group, farmers. There is another group of guilds, those who are specialized in making metal products, iron products and all. They started making iron products. Humans were now ready to move to the next stage of their existence and development. So, step by step, just understand from the stage, when we discuss from the stage of nomadic life, step by step there was a development. The invention of writing was a great step forward. So, slowly when they started settled life, they used to communicate to each other. It might be in the crude form of language. Just understand, when see generation over generation, when they wanted to record something, they started the art of writing. Do you know which is the first script or the form of writing in the world? Yes, it belongs to the Mesopotamian civilization. It is called the cuneiform script. It may not be in the form of language. It was just pictographic, more of pictures. Less of writing, more of pictures. So, just understand this invention, the art of writing, it was a great step forward. So, how did it help? How can we tell that it is a great step? Because see, the rule, think that living in a society, there was some rules and regulations which each and everyone had to follow. All those things they started recording. For the next generation, they can read and understand. Knowledge could now be passed on from one generation to generation. They started having records. See, this is how we are able to connect to our own past. I know we are discussing about prehistoric time, but we are able to discuss about all the changes, how the development had, how these human beings had developed. So, we are able to get all those information from the artifacts. Though it may not be the proper art of writing, but we are collecting the information from the artifacts. Writing was needed for keeping records by traders, law keepers in villages, towns and cities. So, it was required for keeping records. So, not only as a rule which has to pass from generation to generation, also has records by traders. Who are traders? They will be buying and selling goods. Traders, law keepers, that means there were some rules and regulations in that city life, or when the civilization started, in villages and even in towns and cities. So, specific rules for the protection of that village or a town, there were some rules and regulations which the people had to follow. It was also the beginning of the concepts of caste and class. So, slowly the caste system, based on the job, initially when we discussed this caste and all, it has formed based on the job which people used to do. So, just understand, slowly it led to the beginning of concept of caste and class. Divisions have been made based on the skilled and semi-skilled laborers. From towns developed more advanced and urbanized cities. So, just understand, step by step this led to the development even to the stage of urbanization, and slowly city life it was more comfortable. The earliest cities to be discovered were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which are now in Pakistan. So, just understand these cities, when I tell the names, can you tell me it belongs to which civilization? Yes, Indus Valley civilization. So, the earliest cities to be discovered were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which are now in Pakistan. So, Indus Valley, as the term suggests, it is on the banks of which river? Yes, Indus or Sindhu river. So, just understand, these cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa had developed in this Indus Valley civilization. So, you can find here in this picture, you can find this is a great path. Here, just understand how scientifically they have improved. and how good architects we were having. This is a great path where water will be collected from the adjacent wells and it is considered as something sacred to go and take bath, and they were having adjacent rooms for changing the clothes, and people, they used to go and take bath. Once the water is dirty, automatically this water, it was removed and it was reused for the cultivation, and it will be filled with fresh water. Scientifically, it is being planned so that it shows that how scientifically improved our ancient civilization people were. We are not able to explain more because we are not able to decipher the script. So, from the artifacts, we are able to understand how developed our own civilization were, ancient Indian civilization was. In India, some important sites were at Ropar near Chandigarh, at Lothal near Ahmedabad, and a third at Kalibangan in Rajasthan. So, most of the cities which we have traced, it is in Pakistan, and some of the places we can find even in India. These cities were well planned and had all facilities that were available at that time, such as roads that cut each other at right angles, drainage system, and use of burnt bricks. So, just understand the city life which we are discussing, they were having proper roads. And it used to cut right angle, that means properly planned roads we were having. And these roads, and it is believed that by the blowing of wind, it used to clean automatically. It was not required for anyone to go and clean the road. So, they were aware about the directions and how the wind will be blowing, and they have constructed a properly well planned roads. So, is it clear? So, the roads, it was cutting right angle and proper drainage system. Not only that, see, drainage system was there. That means, see, the houses, 1 or 2 storied houses they were having, it was having bathrooms. And the dirty water which was coming out from those houses, it used to let out through this drainage system. And it is believed that in case if there is any block, there were manholes where man can enter and remove the blocks. So, properly well planned drainage system and the use of burnt bricks. Here just understand, in the bathrooms, when the water will be falling, if it is not burnt bricks, it will soak easily. So, you just understand that this burnt bricks, it was especially used in the bathrooms. Such a well planned, well developed city life we were having in ancient India, that is Indus Valley civilization. So, did you understand how from a nomadic life, when they started settled life, how they had developed, human life has developed? Continuation of city life. Later, people started growing surplus grain and storing it for the future. So, even we have found the granaries where they used to collect the surplus food grains. This resulted in a lot of leisure time which led to the progress of civilization and culture. So, step by step, when the work is divided, when they had a proper well planned life and all, slowly they had people had leisure time which has led to the development of a civilization and also culture. Art like painting, music, sculpture and architecture developed. So, these paintings, music also developed when they had leisure time. They were having these paintings, leisure time. Music they used to sing, and sculpture and architecture developed. More decorative crafts like metal work and ornament making were introduced. So, they were familiar with ornaments and also metal work they were familiar with. Now that people had security and their basic needs were fulfilled, they could cater to their high social and aesthetic needs. Here just understand, they had the security that properly they will be getting food and they are having comfortable life. So when they had that security and their basic needs are fulfilled, they could cater their higher social and aesthetic needs. So it started fulfilling the social and other aesthetic needs. With the advancement in science and technology, progress in material sphere was accelerated manifold. So just understand, when we speak about our own Indus Valley civilization, how technically they have improved. They were familiar with the carts, houses, how they have constructed, about the roads which we have already discussed. Step by step there were development. So there was progress in science and technology and also progress in material sphere and also accelerated manifold. Life became more comfortable and later luxurious, at least for some people. So some people, we cannot tell most of the people, but some of the people, they had comfortable life, they had leisure time also, they used to entertain themselves and they were having luxurious life. Soon cities gained importance too. So the cities, they started gaining importance. Some of them came to be called as metropolitan cities, in which we find high-rise buildings, important offices, big business houses and factories. So step by step, when man had started with the city life, metropolitan, they had all the facilities. Metropolitan cities, they had metropolitan cities in the where they had high-rise buildings, huge buildings were there, and important offices were also there, and even big business houses and even factories. Production started, surplus production started. Life has changed for the better for some of us. We have made many discoveries, inventions and innovations to make our lives not only comfortable but also meaningful. See, human beings' life, it became more meaningful because see, it has changed step by step, though it has step by step it has changed and life became more better and more comfortable. So we have made many discoveries. We have started by the discovery of fire. From that, lot of inventions, when it is made more useful, and then these innovations and made our lives not only comfortable but also meaningful. All these developments made our human beings' life more meaningful. But there are many of us who do not have access to clean drinking water. So just understand, even in the present world, lot of people, they were having comfortable life, they were having meaningful life, they are having leisure time, they are entertaining themselves with the art of music, painting, dancing, all those things. But along with that, there is one another side, where just understand, but there are many of us who do not have access to clean drinking water. The moment when we get up, we are having good fresh drinking water. But just understand, there are people, those who were not getting proper drinking water, electricity. We cannot think a day without the electricity, right? So similarly, there are some people, they were not having this facility like electricity, drinking water and all other facilities, even like education and health. So this in turn has created many problems for which we have to find solutions. So just understand, step by step human beings have developed, but at the same time there is one group whom they are not getting all these basic facilities like drinking water, fresh drinking water, electricity, all the basic necessities like even education and even proper health and care. So for this group, they are facing the problem. So this in turn has created many problems for which we have to find a solution. So about this we will be discussing in the next class, like what all are the problems, social problems human beings are facing even in the present society. Now coming to the questions. Identify two features from every stage of human development. So, two features we will be discussing today in today's class. We have discussed starting from the hunter's life. So, just understand, identify two features from every stage of human development. How was the hunting for animals for food by the humans different from the hunting practices of human today? So, you just understand, this is comparison between the ancient time and the today's time, present time. How was the hunting for animals for food by the human beings? So, initial stages mainly hunting, it was for food, filling their stomach, different from the hunting practices of human today. What factors were responsible for the formation of towns? So, what all are the reasons that led to the development of towns, formation of city life or town life? How did writing help to contribute towards human progress? So, the art of writing, how it has helped with the development in the human life. Is it clear, children? Thank you. Meet you in the next session. Jai Sai Ram.